Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about graphs with equations of parabolas in focused Directrix form. Here we go. First slide. Parabola is a conic section in which any point on the parabola is equal distance from a fixed point called the focus. That's this right here. This is our focus. And a line called the Directrix. That's this right here, this line. So any point on our parabola is going to be equal distance between those two things. Okay? The vertex lies exactly halfway between the focus point and the Directrix line. All right. Next, in standard form, the equation of a parabola is at the vertex 0, 0. So everything today, our vertex is going to be at 0, 0. Now, if we have an equation that looks like this, x squared equals 4py, our parabola is either going to open up or down. So if it's positive, it's going to open up. If it's negative, it's going to open down. Now, this next part, this is new. We have an equation that looks like this. Y squared equals 4px. We are going to have a parabola open either to the left or to the right. Now, if p is positive, it's going to open to the right. So it's going to look like this. If p is negative, it's going to look like this, and it's going to go to the left. So that's going to be our new stuff today. We're going to be moving to the right or to the left. P is a number of positive or negative units from the vertex to the focus. Alright, focus Directrix form. You guys want to make sure you fill out this table. This is what we're going to be looking back at in order to graph. It's going to tell us all of our information. So if the equation is x squared equals 4py, this means it's going to open up or down. And our focus is always going to be 0p. Our directrix is always going to be y equals the opposite of p. The axis of symmetry is always going to be a vertical line at x equals 0 for today. Because we're working at the origin, remember, so this is at 0, 0. Now, if we have y squared equals 4px for our equation, it's going to open to the right or to the left. So we're going to have the focus is always going to be the point P0. The directrix is always going to be at x equals negative p, or the opposite of p. And it's always going to have a horizontal line for the axis of symmetry at y equals 0. Alright, this is not in your guided notes, but make sure you get this down. This is very important. This is how we're going to graph our parabolas. It's called the focal width. This is the length of the focal chord. It's the width of the parallel through the focal point. Okay, consider this to be the line that passes through the focus and is parallel to the focus directrix. This is very important. This is how we're going to find our focal width. Right here. It's going to be the absolute value of 4 times p. Alright, moving on, we have 2 examples. Alright, first thing, whenever we have this, we have to decide which form we're going to use, okay? Is it going to open up, down, left, or right? Now, here we have it right here. Looks a little bit different than the last slides, but we can rewrite it so it looks the same. I like to have my x squared be written first, equals negative 4y. Alright? Now, to find our p, this is how we find p every time. You find p, you're going to set 4p equal to, we're going to set that equal to whatever number is sitting in front of the y here. So 4p equals negative 4. So to find p, divide both sides by 4. So P equals -1. Now this is going to be very important to answer all these following questions, okay? Now, since it looks like this, since it's an x squared, we know it's either going to open up or down. This one is a negative, so it's going to go down. Our focus, if you look back at that last thing of notes that we just wrote down, if it's going to open up or down, our focus is always going to be 0 and P. And our P is -1. Our directrix is always going to be Y equals opposite of P. So opposite of -1 is 1. Our vertex, remember our vertex on these ones are always going to be 0, 0. The axis of symmetry, we're going to have Bx equals 0. Now, the focal width, this is so important. This is how we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions. Remember, is equal to the absolute value of 4p. Now this is how we're going to graph it. So it's going to equal absolute value of 4 times -1, which is going to equal absolute value of -4, which is just 4. So our width is 4. Now before I do domain and range, I'm going to graph. Now when we graph these, we have to label a ton of things, okay? First thing, vertex, 0, 0. Put that on there, we have to label it, okay? So vertex is here at 0, 0. Now I'm just going to go through the line. My focus is just a point at 0, -1. It's right here. Make sure I label it 0, -1. Keep going. My directrix is a line. My line says y equals 1. So I come here to 1, draw a straight line, make sure I label my line, y equals 1. We already did the vertex. Axis of symmetry is x equals 0. So that's going to be a vertical line at x equals 0. That's going to be right here. It goes through my vertex. X equals 0. Now, we have to make this look like a parabola. Instead of going through and making a table, we're going to use this focus width right here. We know my width is 4, and it has to go through my focus point. My focus point is exactly in the center. So if it's 4, I need to go 2 spots to the right, and I need to go 2 spots to the left. And I have to label these points as well. So this one's going to be 2, 4. This one's going to, 2, -1. And this one's going to be -2, -1. And we're just going to clip those and make our parabola. Now, we have to label everything we put on our graph now, you guys. So it's going to be labeled like crazy, things all over the place. To end it, just domain and range. This one is going up or down. So our domain is always going to be all real numbers for these ones. X, such that x equals all real numbers. And then our range is going to be from our vertex, which starts at 0. So y such that y, since it's going down, it's going to be less than or equal to 0. All right, example number 1 done. Moving on to example number 2. Here we go. We have the equation y squared equals 20x. So first thing have to do is we have to find our p. So 4p equals 20. To find p, we'll divide both sides by 4. P equals 5. Now, this one, since it's y squared, since it says y squared, it's either going to open to the right or left. Since this number right here is positive, it's going to open to the right. All right. Moving on. To find our focus, if we look at our little cheat sheet, it just says P0. So our focus is going to be P, which is 5, and 0. Our directrix is just going to be x equals the opposite of P. So x equals opposite of negative 5, which is negative 5. Our vertex for all of these ones today, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be 0. 0. Axis of symmetry is going to be y equals 0. Now this is really important. Our focus width. Remember, absolute value of 4 times p. So absolute value of 4 times 5, which is absolute value of 20, which just equals 20. So the width is 20. All right, let's start putting all this onto our graph. First thing, the vertex is at 0, 0. So I'm going to put that on here. 0, 0. Next thing on the line is our focus, which is at 5, 0. Right here, 5, 0. That's our focus. Next thing, the directrix is that x equals negative 5. So I go to my x line, go to negative 5. It's going to be a vertical line right here. X equals negative 5. Next thing, axis of symmetry. Y equals 0. So y is going to equal 0 right here on our x axis. Make sure we label it y equals 0. Now we're going to create our parabola. Everything else is done. All we have left is our parabola. So we have to use our focus width for it. It's 20. With our focus point right here, this is our focus point at 5, 0 being the center. So I have to go, if it's 20, I have to go up 10, and I have to go down 10 from here. I'm going to go up 10. This point right here is 5, 10. And then I'm going to go down 10. Just going to be right here. That point right there is at 5, negative 10. Now I'm going to connect from my vertex to create my parabola. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you. Oh, no, domain and range. So sorry. Domain on this one, you guys. We are going to change this up a little bit. Our domain and ranges are going to switch. Our domain on this one is going to be the one that's either going to be greater than or equal to. So it's going to be x such that x, now if we look at this, our parabola is going to the right, and right our numbers are getting bigger, so it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Now if it's going from the left or right, you guys, then our range is going to always equal all real numbers. So that's one thing we have to stop and think about a little bit. Okay, now we are all done, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you have a wonderful, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you later. Bye.